Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm finally reviewing Halloween 2018.
Teach me about fucking style.
Okay, so as I've talked about in my previous videos, you guys know how excited I am to review this movie, and I'm so happy that we're finally here. I absolutely love and adore this movie. It's one of my favorite movies in the franchise. You guys will see that in my Halloween franchise ranking, which will be the next video that I put out. So yeah, I have so much to talk about with this movie, more so than any other Halloween review I've done so far. So yeah, this video is probably going to be like a lot longer than my other videos, because I have a lot to get into. So I'm going to try to keep my structure that I do with my other videos, like talk about the story, the characters, things I liked and disliked. But I might go on to like a tangent at some points because, like I said, I have so many different things to talk about. Okay, so the premise of this movie, which I'm sure every single one of you watching has already seen, but basically it picks up 40 years after the original Halloween, and we see where Michael is, we see where Laurie is, and we see what's happening with Laurie and her family. And this is Michael and Laurie's final confrontation. Yeah, no, it's not. There's 2 more movies coming out. But, anyways, okay. So, yeah, that's basically the premise of the movie. Not very complicated. Pretty to the point and simple. I guess we'll just get this out of the way in the beginning of the video before we get into characters, because it does have something to do with the storyline of this movie, the whole premise of this movie. Okay, so a lot of people have different opinions about how they feel about Halloween 2018 taking place 40 years after the original and them ignoring all the sequels. And I do understand why they had to do that, obviously, because there's so many convoluted storylines and different timelines throughout the Halloween series that they had to do that in a way, obviously. But I do wish that they, and I still believe this, honestly, like, I've listened to the reasoning, like, David Gordon Green and Jamie Lee Curtis, and I think even Jason Blum has talked about it in interviews about why they ignored Halloween 2. And I get it to a certain extent, but I honestly feel like it would have added more to the story if they would have included Halloween 2 in this timeline, because it still would have been 40 years later, because Halloween 2 took place the same night as Halloween 1. And I actually personally think it would have been better because it would have added more to Laurie's story, because she went through more that night, and it would have added more to her trauma. And also, as I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the brother-sister storyline, and I actually think it made less sense specifically in this new timeline to get rid of that storyline. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that for now. Okay, so as far as characters go, I think I'm going to talk about characters I liked first and then characters I disliked and get into the reasonings and all that. So I normally talk about Michael last, but I'm going to talk about him first this time. I absolutely love Michael in this movie. He's so brutal and he's just awesome. Like, that's my Michael Myers, the Michael Myers that I love. Yes, I love a fictional serial killer, and what about it? But yeah, and I absolutely love the portrayal of Michael in this movie. He's portrayed by James Jude Courtney pretty much throughout the whole movie, except for one scene that Nick Castle was in, which love him too. But yeah, I honestly think that James Jude Courtney is the best Michael we've had since Nick Castle, and I'm so excited that he's going to be in Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. So yeah, I loved Michael in this movie. I think I love Michael in this movie. I haven't loved Michael this much since the first 2 movies. So yeah, let's get into Laurie, because we're talking about characters I love first. I love Laurie in this movie, which I'm sure does not come as a surprise to any of you. Of course, portrayed by Jamie Lee Curtis once again, which really excites me. I love how she portrayed Laurie in this movie, and I really love how they showed how trauma can affect someone even so many years later, even though it's been 40 years. It is realistic that Lori, obviously everyone handles trauma differently, but that Lori still is the way she is, and she's still so traumatized by what happened to her 40 years ago, because she never got, at the time that actually happened to her, she never got any help. And so, this is going to get a little bit deep. When you go through a traumatic experience and you never get help for it, it's going to affect you more deeply. Yeah. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. It's going to affect you more deeply if you don't open up about it and get help for it, even all those years later. So, yeah, and I love the mixture of how, like, obviously I love badass Lori, but I also love how they managed to balance out her strength / badassery but she's also very vulnerable, and you see that in a lot of parts in this movie, and I just love how they balanced that out with her character. And yeah, I love Lori in this movie. And I honestly think that even though she was obviously the main character, I feel like she was put in on the back burner a little bit. Like, I feel like she should have been in even more of it, and they spent a little bit too much time on other characters. But, yeah. Okay. So, I have 2 more characters I'm going to talk about that I really, really liked. Allison. I really like Allison, but I will say that she didn't have a lot to do in this movie until the end. So I'm really excited to see where they take her character in Halloween Kills and probably Halloween Ends. Because I get that they're trying to make her like the new final girl. You know, no one will ever replace Lori, so people need to stop saying that, because this is not going to happen. But I do really like Allison, and I definitely see a lot of Lori in Allison. Yeah, I understand why they're heading in the direction that they're heading in with Allison, and I really enjoy her character, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. Okay, so one last character I'm going to talk about that I really liked is Officer Hawkins. I really liked his character. I really liked his dynamic with Lori, and I'm really ticked off that they killed him off, or maybe not, because on Twitter, a couple of weeks ago, there was a Halloween 2018 watch party on Twitter, and, you know, a bunch of people were asking the cast and crew questions on Twitter, and someone asked they said something like, I wish Hawkins would have survived, and David Gordon Green responded with something like, oh, do you? So, honestly, do I think he survived? I don't think it's very likely, just because he got stabbed in the trachea, and then after that, I think he also got ran over. So, the possibility of him, I mean, I could maybe see him, like in the beginning of Halloween Kills, maybe he's in the hospital with Lori, and then he dies, or something like that, or maybe he's in flashbacks in Halloween Kills, which I think is a possibility. But yeah, I really wish they wouldn't have killed him, unless they didn't. Okay, well, I guess this next category is going to be characters that are kind of in the middle for me. Like, I didn't love them, but I didn't hate them. Like, I kind of liked them or enjoyed something about the characters. So Aaron and Dana, who are the podcasters that meet with Michael and then they meet with Lori and die pretty early in the movie. Well, at least Dana does. There's a possibility that Aaron could still be alive as well, because they don't actually show him dead. But yeah, I enjoyed their characters to an extent. I actually liked Aaron more than Dana. I felt like his character was interesting enough, and I feel like they both could have been in the movie for a little bit longer. They were annoying at some points, obviously, like in the beginning when they're talking to Lori, and like they just straight up ask her about her daughter being taken away from her, and just these really personal questions, and I was like, yeah, it was just flat out rude, and I was not with it. But I understand they're podcasters, and they're trying to make this story and make money off of it, or get the story, not make the story, but yeah, so their characters are kind of give or take for me. I didn't hate them, like a lot of people hated them. I didn't hate them, but I didn't love them. Yeah. And one more character I want to talk about in this category is Oscar, which is Allison and Cameron's friend. I thought this character was... I feel like he was like the typical cliche best friend in horror movies, but I actually didn't mind his character. And honestly, his death scene is one of my favorite death scenes in the whole movie. His death scene was really cool. Yeah, you know, they had the whole cliche thing where he had a crush on Alice and he tried to kiss her, she rejected him, blah blah blah, that's all cliche and all, but I didn't hate his character either. Now we're going to get into characters I didn't like. Okay, so the sheriff in this movie, isn't his name Sheriff Barker or something like that? I don't really remember. Is that his name? I think so. But yeah, I did not like the sheriff in this movie. I feel like Hawkins should have been the sheriff. And, like, you know, he made that joke, like, what are we going to do, cancel Halloween? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what you should do. Like, once he learned, like, who Michael Myers was and that he escaped, he just didn't really seem to care, and he didn't take it seriously at all, and yeah, his character was just not needed. But apparently he's going to be in Halloween Kills, so he's obviously going to be killed off, probably early in the movie, which I don't care, because I don't care about his character at all. The acting wasn't bad, though. It just, I didn't like the character at all. Let's get into Dr. Sartain. Even though I did not like this character, I didn't care for this character, I don't hate him with a burning passion like a lot of other people. Like, a lot of people who didn't like this movie or didn't like a lot of the movie point to him, like, he's the main reason why they didn't like the movie, because of this big, I guess, plot twist that he was involved with. He's weird from even early on. You kind of sense that something's off about him, and then when he first meets Laurie, he seems to be obsessed with her, too, not just Michael. And he claims that he wants to, like he's really fascinated to know what will happen if Michael and Laurie collide again. Like, he wants to see that happen, and he wants to see Michael, like, out in the wild. Yeah, I honestly feel like that was an interesting way to take his character, but the way they executed it was just really weird. And I'm going to be completely honest, when the whole plot twist, I guess, happens, where you find out that he doesn't want Michael to die, he's not trying to kill Michael, he wants Michael to live because he's so fascinated by him. And I guess he was so fascinated with him that he wanted to feel what it was like to kill someone, so he kills, or allegedly kills, Hawkins, and that's honestly the thing that pissed me off the most about his character. If he wouldn't have stabbed Hawkins, I think my dislike level for him, that's not a thing, but it is now, would have not been as strong if that hadn't happened. That really just rubbed me the wrong way because I like Hawkins so much. But yeah, he ends up dying anyways. Michael kills him. So yeah. Okay, so let's get into Ray. I didn't like his character, but again, I didn't, hate him. He was just kind of there. He was just like, eh. I didn't care when he died. I was expecting it, but yeah, he was just kind of there, you know? He was just there. So yeah. So now, I'm done talking about, I think I covered oh, okay. I forgot a few characters, so I'm going to go back now, and these aren't in any specific category because I forgot to talk about them, but I'll just kind of tell you how I feel about them quickly. Vicky, the babysitter, I actually liked her. I thought she was funny, and yeah, I liked her character. She wasn't in a lot of the movie, obviously, because she gets killed, but a lot of people complained about her character, but I thought she was fine. And Julian, the little boy she's babysitting, another problem people have with this movie is the comedy, but I honestly didn't, it wasn't that big of a deal for me. I actually found him really funny and lightened up the movie a little bit. I understand, when Michael was, right before he killed Vicky, when he was, grabbing her, trying to kill her, and Julian ran away, and he was, not taking it as seriously as he should have, but honestly, I just really don't think it's that deep, it's a movie. Vicky's boyfriend, I don't know, don't even care to talk about him, he's not important, and dies, obviously. Oh yeah, Cameron, Allison's boyfriend. I don't like him at all, and I honestly hope he dies in Halloween Kills. Not that I, despise him or anything, but I just did not like him at all. Even before he dropped Allison's phone in the cheese or the punch or whatever it was, I just didn't like him. I didn't care for him at all. And so, yeah, hopefully he dies. in Halloween Kills, because Allison does not need him. Okay, I've covered everyone now, I think. Except for Karen. So I want to talk about Karen, real quick. Okay, so I have mixed feelings about Karen. I did not love her, but I don't really know if I'd say that I like her or not. It's like, I just have mixed feelings about her. Because throughout the whole movie, even when I saw it for the first time, and I've seen this movie a bazillion times since I first saw it back in 2018, but even when I first saw it in theaters, I didn't care for her character because just the way she treats Laurie throughout the movie, and you know, you find out about her backstory and about why she is that way towards Laurie because she resents her for how she raised her. But I understand that and all. I just hated the way she treated Laurie throughout this movie. She has her redeeming moment at the end, where she shoots Michael, and that's a really cool moment. But yeah, I am hoping she gets a lot of character development in Halloween Kills, and I want that for her. Like, I want to like her more than I do. So I think she's a character that has the potential to go up on my likability list depending on what happens with her character in Halloween Kills. Okay, so I'm done with all the characters. That took a while to talk about. But yeah. Okay, let's talk about the gore and the violence. I really like the way they handled the kills in this movie because they had some off-screen kills where you would just see the aftermath, like that guy whose like jaw was broke. And then you also have scenes like where he just walks into that lady's house and he stabs her straight through the throat. So I like how they balanced out off-screen kills and on-screen kills. And yeah, I really enjoyed, I thought there was just the right amount of gore. And my favorite kill in the whole movie, it's kind of tied with Oscar's death and Aaron and Dana. Well, I guess we don't actually know if Aaron died, but Dana's death scene is really cool. Okay, so yeah, we talked about the story, talked about the characters, talked about the gore and violence. Now, all that's left to talk about is things I liked and disliked, and then I'm going to get into my favorite scenes. Okay, I'll do my negatives first, and the main, I guess it is a negative. I mean, my main negative I talked about in the very beginning about how I really wish they would have included Halloween 2 in this new timeline because it still would have made sense to the story they were trying to tell. And I understand they had to ignore every other sequel after that, which I agree with, but yeah. My main problem with this movie is that they got rid of the brother-sister storyline in this new timeline because I feel like it actually makes less sense when you think about it. Because even though Michael is killing random people in this movie, he is still drawn to Laurie, and they do still have a confrontation, and I just feel like it still would have made more sense if they kept them as siblings as to why he's drawn to her at all. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then again, the comedy in the movie was a negative for a lot of people, but it's not for me. So, yeah, that's really just, well, it's kind of like two negatives and one. But yeah, that's really the only negatives I have about this movie. Oh, and the Sartain plot twist where Hawkins dies or allegedly dies. Yeah. Okay, moving on. The positives, literally, like everything else about this movie, I love this movie. Has some really great atmosphere, and it feels like fall, obviously. It feels like Halloween. And the score in this movie, I absolutely love the score in this movie. The music in this movie is just, chef's kiss. Yeah, I just love this movie so much. My positives are literally like everything about the movie other than those couple of negatives that I mentioned. Oh, the ending. Okay, let's talk about the ending. I like the ending. A lot of people, that's another problem people had with this movie. They thought it was like anticlimactic or should have been longer. Whatever the case may be, I thought it was perfectly fine. I actually loved the last 20 or so minutes of the film where Michael finally gets to Laurie's house. I loved their fight scene and then him burning in the basement. I liked all of it. So now I'm going to talk about some of my favorite moments in the movie, and then we'll be done. Okay, one of my favorite scenes in this movie, as I've already talked about when I was talking about kills, is the Oscar death scene. I love that scene. And that's also when Allison sees Michael for the first time. And the musical cue there is just, chef's kiss. The bathroom scene is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. The beginning, I really like the intro, when they're in the asylum and Dana and Aaron visit Michael, and they hold up his mask. I really like the opening. I really like the ending, as I mentioned, just like the whole ending, and a specific scene, okay, two specific scenes in the ending. Within the ending that I loved, the scene where Michael is at Laurie's house after he kills Ray, and he grabs Laurie through the door, and then the scene where Michael and Laurie are fighting in her bedroom. I love that scene. That is my favorite scene in the whole movie. Oh yeah, and then where he made the police officer's head into like a jack-o'-lantern. That was really cool. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I'm sorry this video is pretty long. I'm gonna have to cut a lot of it out. But I absolutely loved this movie. I know a lot of other people had problems with it. But I am a Halloween fanatic. I have loved this franchise since I was younger, and yeah, I really love this movie. It's high up on my ranking list, as I mentioned. And yeah, I guess that's all there is to say. Oh, and to rate this movie, I honestly give this movie a 10 out of 10. I know some people are going to be mad at me, but it must be said. Halloween 2018, I love you. Oh, and this is also the movie I rewatch the most out of the whole franchise. Okay, thank you guys for watching. If I forgot anything, which I don't think I did, I'll add it in the description. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, turn on my post notifications, give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching my review of the Halloween franchise. Well, my reviews in the Halloween franchise. And yeah, next up is my Halloween franchise ranking. And then I'm going to move on to just doing some reviews. I think I'm going to hold off a little bit on doing my Nightmare on Elm Street franchise review / ranking and Friday the 13th. I think I'm going to hold off on big franchises for a moment and just do other movie reviews for a little bit. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.